What happens when fame fades? But the walls remember? Once, these Hollywood mansions were cathedrals of stardom, chandeliers blazing, champagne flowing, the air thick with perfume and ego. Behind their marble staircases and manicured palms lived the legends who defined an era. But when the lights went out, the fame turned cold, and the wrecking ball came for both the star and the stage they built their lives on. These aren't just houses, they're tombstones made of stucco and scandal. So dim the lights and pour a drink. We're walking through the top 5 Hollywood mansions that were demolished alongside their stars' careers. Each one rose in glory, fell in silence, and left only dust where dreams once danced. Pickfair. Before Beverly Hills had zip codes that glittered, before Hollywood royalty had Instagram accounts, there was Pickfair, the first palace of the stars. Built high in Beverly Hills in 1919, Pickfair was more than a mansion. It was the birthplace of Hollywood's social elite, a place where movie stars and moguls gathered beneath carved ceilings and gold-dusted chandeliers. The name itself came from its famous owners, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, the original power couple of the silver screen. She was America's sweetheart. He was the swashbuckling hero who could charm his way out of any scene. Together, they embodied the dream that Hollywood was selling to the world: love, luxury, and a touch of make-believe. Pickfair had 25 rooms, a grand staircase, a mirrored ballroom, tennis courts, and terraces that looked out over the city like a king's balcony. Guests called it the White House of Hollywood. Presidents dined there. Chaplin, Einstein, and Valentino clinked glasses under its crystal chandeliers. It was paradise with a front gate. But here's the thing about paradise: it doesn't last forever. As the silent era gave way to talkies, the couple who defined the old world began to fade. The marriage fractured. The laughter echoed in empty halls. Fairbanks left. Pickford stayed, haunted by memories of her own legend. She wandered the estate like a ghost of her past fame, the house slowly decaying around her. When Mary Pickford died in 1979, the estate had already become a relic of a forgotten age, dusty, neglected, and heavy with history. For a while, it survived under new owners, including singer Jerry Buss and later actress Pia Zadora, who claimed the structure was beyond saving. In 1990, she demolished it. The same walls that once echoed with laughter from the greatest stars in Hollywood were reduced to rubble. The demolition sparked outrage. Historians called it the death of old Hollywood. Pickfair wasn't just a house. It was the last link to the moment when Hollywood first believed in its own mythology. Today, a new mansion stands on the same spot, bigger but not brighter. Because Pickfair wasn't about square footage, it was about spirit. And when its walls fell, something in Hollywood fell with them: the innocence of a dream that thought it could live forever. Falcon Lair. High above Benedict Canyon, hidden behind winding roads and wrought iron gates, stood a mansion that once pulsed with romance and mystery: Falcon Lair. It wasn't just a house. It was a stage, built for the man who defined passion itself: Rudolph Valentino, the original Hollywood heartthrob. They called him the Great Lover. Every glance, every smirk, every silent flicker of his eyes turned audiences weak. Valentino didn't just act, he hypnotized. He was the dream of a million fans, a symbol of desire, elegance, and impossible charm. But even dreams need a place to live. And so, in 1925, Valentino bought an estate overlooking Beverly Hills and transformed it into Falcon Lair, a Mediterranean fortress draped in ivy, marble, and moonlight. At night, you could hear the echo of engines roaring up the hill, limousines bringing stars, poets, and aristocrats to parties that blurred the line between fantasy and reality. Valentino filled the halls with rare antiques, sculptures, and silk, a palace fit for cinema's first global idol. But here's the twist: he barely lived to enjoy it. In 1926, at just 31 years old, Valentino passed suddenly, leaving behind more than grief. He left behind a myth. The world mourned like a lover abandoned. Tens of thousands lined the streets for his funeral. Women fainted, men wept, and Falcon Lair became a shrine, a mausoleum of stardom, sealed in time. After his passing, the house changed hands, its grandeur fading like a once golden reel. New owners came and went. Some claimed to hear footsteps in the halls. Others swore they saw Valentino's reflection in the mirrors. Did you know? Even actress Doris Duke, one of America's richest women, later lived there and kept his old stables untouched, as if the ghost of old Hollywood still needed somewhere to rest. But no legend survives the wrecking ball forever. In the early 2000s, Falcon Lair was gutted piece by piece, torn down in quiet silence, as if the city itself couldn't bear to make noise while erasing a ghost. The terraces where Valentino once watched sunsets over Los Angeles now belong to someone else, faceless, nameless, another mansion with no memory. All that remains of Falcon Lair are photographs, black and white glimpses of a world where beauty and tragedy shared the same stage. It wasn't just the end of a house, it was the end of an illusion that fame could build something permanent. Because in Hollywood, even castles made of marble eventually turned to dust. Greyhall. Before he built the palace that became Hollywood legend, before the marble staircases and gilded balconies of Pickfair, Douglas Fairbanks lived at Greyhall, a Tudor-style mansion tucked deep within Beverly Hills, where charm met ambition and silence could almost hear the birth of an empire. Picture it, 1919. Hollywood was still a sleepy town of orange groves and silent screens. Fairbanks was already its first true action hero, leaping from chandeliers, grinning through danger, every bit the American dream in motion. But even heroes need a fortress, and for a brief, shining moment, Greyhall was his. It wasn't a house, it was a declaration. Stone arches, sweeping lawns, and paneled rooms built for royalty. Fairbanks hosted lavish dinners, moonlit fencing duels, and secret story sessions where ideas for films like The Mark of Zorro and Robin Hood were first whispered. Those stories, born in candlelight and laughter, would soon define the golden age. And then, as fate often writes it, love arrived. Fairbanks met Mary Pickford, the queen of the silver screen. Together they were Hollywood's first royal couple. Beauty and brawn, grace and swagger. The world adored them. Their union didn't just dominate tabloids, it invented them. But with love came transformation. Greyhall suddenly felt too small for two legends. Fairbanks sold it and began building something grander. Pickfair, the mansion that would come to symbolize Hollywood itself. Greyhall faded quietly into the background, traded between magnates and millionaires, its echoes growing fainter each year. Did you know? Years later, George Gershwin lived there briefly and composed by its windows, filling the halls with music that matched Fairbanks' old laughter. Restless, romantic, alive. But Hollywood's memory is short, and even the most beautiful homes can't survive indifference. Over time, Greyhall's gardens withered, its walls cracked, its parties reduced to rumor. Renovations came and went, each stripping a little more of its soul away, until all that remained were shadows, the ghost of a man who once believed he could outrun time itself. Greyhall wasn't demolished in a single strike. It was erased slowly, by progress, by forgetfulness, by the quiet truth that no star's light shines forever. When you walk past that stretch of Beverly Hills today, you'd never guess that the first king of Hollywood once laughed there, sword in hand, dreaming up a world that still lives in every movie we watch. Greyhall was the prologue. Pickfair was the legend, and Douglas Fairbanks, he was the dream that built them both. The Garden of Allah. There was a time when you could stand on Sunset Boulevard and feel it hum. Before the neon, before the billboards, there stood a sanctuary for stars, a strange, beautiful haven called the Garden of Allah. It wasn't just a hotel, it was a kingdom without rules. Picture it, the late 1920s. The world is roaring, the movies are silent, and fame feels like champagne, dazzling, dangerous, fleeting. In the heart of West Hollywood, actress Ala Nazimova, one of cinema's earliest goddesses, bought a Spanish-style estate and transformed it into a legend. Nazimova was no ordinary star. They called her the Russian Sarah Bernhardt, a woman of fierce beauty and sharper intellect. She turned her mansion into a playground for the famous and the free, where writers, directors, and dreamers gathered beneath palm trees and paper lanterns. Her friends began building bungalows around the main villa, and before long, the Garden of Allah Hotel was born. And oh, the stories those walls could tell. Here, Errol Flynn swam laps with a martini in hand. F. Scott Fitzgerald scribbled stories by the pool long after the parties had ended. Humphrey Bogart, Dorothy Parker, and Robert Benchley traded barbs in the courtyard until sunrise. Laughter echoed from every corner, the kind that hides heartbreak. Did you know? It's said that Nazimova herself coined the phrase Hollywood Babylon while describing those nights. Because this wasn't paradise. It was purgatory, painted in moonlight and gin. But nothing in Hollywood stays golden forever. As the silent era faded and the talkies took over, the garden began to crumble. The stars grew older, the parties wilder, and the bills higher. Nazimova's fortune slipped away, her name dimmed from marquees, and the place she built, her own Garden of Eden, fell into ruin. By the 1950s, bulldozers rolled in, the fountains ran dry, the palm trees fell, and when the dust cleared, the Garden of Allah was gone, replaced by a strip mall with a neon sign that read, almost mockingly, "Laughter lives here." But for those who remember, the garden was more than a hotel. It was the soul of early Hollywood, untamed, unfiltered, and unforgettable. It was the place where stars came to live without masks, to dance barefoot on the edge of their own legends. And like all beautiful things in this town, it burned bright before disappearing into the night. The Beverly Hills estate of Jean Harlow. Every city has its ghost stories, but in Beverly Hills, they wear silk gowns and diamond smiles, and none shimmer or haunt quite like Jean Harlow's. She was called the Platinum Blonde, Hollywood's first bombshell, a woman who could melt a camera lens with a glance. But behind that glow was a life that flickered too fast, and a mansion that became her gilded cage. In the early 1930s, Jean Harlow moved into a pristine white estate on Easton Drive, tucked in the lush folds of Benedict Canyon. The house looked like something out of a fairy tale, Spanish arches, marble floors, and sunlight spilling through French doors. It was beautiful, almost too beautiful, the kind of place where even the silence seemed rehearsed. She lived there with Paul Byrne, her new husband, and a rising MGM executive. To the world, they were Hollywood's golden couple, elegant, poised, perfect. But inside those stucco walls, something was off. The laughter was brittle, the dinners short, the air tense. Then one summer morning in 1932, tragedy struck. Paul Byrne was found lifeless in the upstairs bedroom. The newspapers screamed, the studios panicked, and Jean Harlow, just 21 years old, was thrown into the cruelest spotlight of her life. Did you know? The studio's publicists arrived before the police. They managed the story, guarded the doors, and tried to rewrite the truth before it hit the headlines. It was Hollywood damage control at its most ruthless, an early lesson in how fame could twist fact into fiction. After that day, the mansion on Easton Drive never felt the same. Guests claimed to feel chills in its halls. Servants whispered about footsteps when no one was home. Even Jean herself reportedly refused to sleep in that room again. Harlow moved out soon after, chasing light she could never quite find again. Just 5 years later, at only 26, she was gone. And the house? It lingered. Sold, remodeled, renamed, but never fully reborn. Every owner since has spoken of strange happenings, as if the mansion itself remembered every secret it ever kept. Because that's the thing about Hollywood homes. They don't just shelter dreams. They collect them. The laughter, the lies, the heartbreak, all sealed behind elegant doors and perfect lawns. Jean Harlow's Beverly Hills estate wasn't just a house. It was the reflection of old Hollywood itself, dazzling on the outside, haunted within. A platinum palace built for a goddess who learned too late that even paradise in this town comes with shadows. Once, these mansions stood as proof that fame could build castles. Now they remind us that even castles crumble. The stars are gone, their homes are rubble, but the stories, the whispers, linger in the palms and the plaster. Hollywood doesn't bury its dead. It just builds new dreams over the old ones. So next time you drive through Beverly Hills and see another gleaming mansion, remember, somewhere beneath that polished marble lies another era, another story, another star who thought the lights would never fade.